Hey everyone, and welcome to 121 in Flux. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we talk about movies on this show. We kind of jump around. We talk about a lot of old movies, some classics, sometimes it's recent stuff if there's like a new sequel coming out or things like that. This one is just one that was, and when I say a regular movie, all I really mean is it's not inspired by like a new thing coming out. You know, when we started the schedule for this show, we wrote down a bunch of movies that we'd been meaning to watch and or wanted to do on the show. And they kept getting pushed back for like, oh, there's a new Spider-Man coming out. Let's do some Spider-Man movies, building up to it. So this is back to the regular schedule.
This one's not even one of those. This was one I bought on Blu-ray about a month ago. I was like, let's do this because I want to
Oh,
watch
is
it.
it? Well, it feels like a regular one because it's random. It's not.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's not connected to anything. It's just what it is. But we're going to talk about Thief, which is a Michael Mann movie from 1981 starring James Caan. It is a sort of crime thriller. I would go as far to say if you're a fan of something like Drive, I think you might find there's some inspiration
Yeah.
in Thief, other films of that kin as well. So yeah, we'll do a little spoiler free section, and then we'll give you some warning, and then we'll go into it. But it's also it's very late. I think it's going to be a relaxed recording. We'll kick
I've,
back,
I've had a couple of drinks.
keep it easy. I might not be as animated as I sometimes am, but that's okay. That's okay. So, I'd seen Thief before. I think it's the first thing I'll mention. I'd seen this before a few years ago. I got the Criterion when it was originally released, and bought it completely on the whim that I liked a couple of other Michael Mann's films, and I liked the look of it.
Not gonna lie, this pretty much like when I picked this up last month, I was just like, yeah, I like the look of this. Why not?
That is a fair reason to blind buy a movie, because why not? And I love it. I love Thief. It's one of what I would consider the sort of the holy quadrinity of, and that's not a word I know. Before people in the comments correct me, I made it up. It's
It is
fine.
now.
Uh, of because Michael Mann, I think, has his ups and downs. I think his recent output's been a lot more rough. Not that I've seen all of them, but like he's got some weaker films in there.
I mean, it says a lot where it got to the point where you didn't even bother seeing them all, though.
That is true. That is true. Um, as for the other movies that I consider his greatest hits, at least from the ones I've seen, I mean, I have no doubt there's maybe one or two of his early stuff that I've not seen yet, and maybe some other greats in there. But so the ones I'm including there are Collateral, Heat, and Manhunter. Those are the Michael Mann movies that I love, and then this is the fourth one. And there's the one that I've seen the most recent as well. This was like, I'd seen the other three. I put this in, and like right away, you're hit with the visuals and the music, and you're just oozing in style.
Do you know what? That was the thing that got me most straight because I didn't know. Obviously, like I said, this was a blind buy.
Mm-hmm.
I put it on and I heard the music. It was like, oh, I like the sound of this. This is just when you got to the title menu,
Yeah. Oh,
and then
great.
and then it was as the credits coming up, it says Tangerine Dream. I was like, oh, I'm in for some fun here.
Yeah, Tangerine Dream, if you don't know, also did the music for Near Dark, which is actually we did an episode of Screams After Midnight that Connor actually guested on,
I did.
just randomly for no other reason that he was bored and said, "What are you doing this week?" and then watched the movie and joined in, and that was kind of it. And
And it was a great movie.
it's a shame we didn't do that with some upcoming films that we've got coming. I think the
Oh,
audience would love to know what you think of Saw 3, quite frankly. So.
do you know what? I can tell you what I think of Saw 3. I am never watching that shite.
So, so what is the movie actually about? So, James Caan plays Frank, who is a sort of upper class thief. Like he cracks like really big safes. Like it's not just a simple little home
Yeah.
invasions. He breaks into like high establishments. He's got partners who deal with the alarms. He goes
He
in. He's
goes
got
for the diamonds.
yeah. He's got he's got a lot of like kit. He has like big drills and big devices he uses and all this thing. He's a professional. He's good at what he does. And the reason why I was instantly comparing it to Drive on this rewatch is actually because it opens in a very similar way, where the opening scene is like showing you what this character's good at.
Right, this is them on a job.
Yeah, and then the movie like sort of goes from there, and like it's about his personal life after
So
that.
that was the thing that's true. Obviously, you're talking about all these tools and
Mm.
breaking into the safe. It looked very genuine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people who actually know about this stuff might look at it and go, "Oh, that's nothing but false stuff." But
Right, but it looked good.
yeah, it did. And I think for me, like since we're not spoilers here, This film is gorgeous.
Absolutely.
It is stunning. Right at the start, it's not the opening shot, but one of the first shots just at the start of this job. There's a shot in an alley, and it's looking up like between two buildings, and it's the fire escapes. And the camera, it's nighttime. It's pouring a rain, and the camera's just tilting down. So all it's doing is tilting down, and it's just oozing atmosphere. It is a beautiful shot.
It is. Yeah.
And as you watch this, like no one captures nighttime in a city like Michael Mann. It's one of my favorite things about Collateral as well. Is everything just looks really nice, and I think this is honestly, I think this is his best looking movie. I think this is just
the whole thing is just dripping with style, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, there's that shot, the next morning when he's like sitting with the guy in the water, and there's the camera's behind him, and it's just they're in silhouette. And it's just the water, the ocean out in front of them, and it looks so good.
It does.
It is absolutely dripping in style. I can't compliment I can't compliment the visuals enough. There's something just it's how he lights, and obviously it's the DOP who's doing the actual lighting here, but like whoever he works with, the instructions he gives them, or maybe it's the same DP he usually works with, I don't know, but the way they light nighttime shots, the way it looks when they're just like walking down the street, there's when two characters are standing on a street at nighttime talking to each other. There's something about the way it looks in his movies. It's this one especially.
Right. Do you know what? That's the thing you're saying. Oh yeah, it's the DP that's done this. It's them that's created the shot, but you still give the credit to Mann for hiring the right person, essentially.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he hired whoever did this. So exactly.
Right.
And like I say, it's like a theme that I've noticed in a few of his movies where he does this sort of nighttime shooting, and it looks great. It really feels like the city's a character almost, like where you feel this like out in the streets at night kind of feel to it, like it gives it atmosphere in a way, and it does this purely through shooting style and not with like, because I mean it's a bit easier when you say you make. Like when you watch like Batman Begins and like Gotham has a bit of, it does because they've designed a lot of the buildings to have a look to them.
Right,
whereas,
and people are talking about the city.
Yeah, whereas no one talks about the city at all in this movie. No one mentions it. Not really.
No.
Not
at all, really.
I think at one point he mentions he's moving to another city, but like it's just it's incidental.
Like I say, if you go back to Batman Begins, people talk about Gotham, and it gives you a sense of its history and things like that add to it. Whereas here, it's just like, no, you just get it all through just the way it looks.
Yeah. So the plot of the movie is that he's this thief, and we find out that he's an ex-con, and he wants to like sort of build himself a life. That's why he's doing these jobs. He wants to make enough money so he can just kind of go and build. Because he felt like he's missed time because he was in prison for like over 10 years. He's like he's trying to catch up basically with people who have been earning money for the last 10, 15 years of their lives. And he's doing these jobs. He wants to start a nice fresh life, and he's got a love interest, Jessie, who he's sort of courting at this point in time. And he wants the one final job, and he's sort of met these. Basically, that this like the crime boss, this sort of fence who sort of can organise bigger jobs, and he's going to do one last job for him, make a shit ton of money. I think it was 840 grand he was going to get out of this job. And that was going to be him. He's going to retire, and he's going to go and have his family life with his wife or his potential life, and that's what's going to happen. And obviously, you feel like okay, it's not going to go to plan.
Right, because this is the start of the movie.
This is the setup of the movie. Obviously, there's going to be twists and turns here down the road, and complications may arise. But that's what the movie's about. That's what it is. So I mean, I think you said it had style. You said you liked the visuals, but I've not actually asked you if you liked the movie yet. So that's what I'm going to do now. Connor, did you like Thief?
I did very much. I don't think I wouldn't say I loved it quite as much as you did.
Okay.
But I definitely enjoyed it a lot.
I like it a lot. It's and what I like about Mann's, at least the Mann movies that I like a lot, is that I feel like his character work is quite strong. Like I felt like by the time it got to like the last act of the movie, and like Frank is making decisions, I understood why he was making every decision. They built up his character so well up until that point. He's fully fledged. It almost felt like. I mean, I have no idea if this was an influence on Breaking Bad, but I could almost see this just being a couple of episodes of a TV show like that.
You can, Breaking Bad, Sopranos, that sort of show.
Yeah, like where the character work's that strong that I understand why everyone's making the decisions they're making. But because it's a movie, it's really just him that's that well developed because he's the protagonist, and everyone else is just there to facilitate his plot, and that's fine. Right. Obviously, a TV show you have different characters who can get their own episodes and you bounce around.
That's it. That's just the the limitations of the medium, really, when it comes to film. Like, but movies, you got 2 to 3 hours usually, give or take.
And that's not a complaint because it's focused. It's just doing its one story.
Right.
This is the point of the movie, and it's doing that well. And I think talking about the style, like the entire process, like the heist at the start, and then there's a heist later on. Of course, they build up to. The heist almost take place entirely in silence with just music playing, and all they're doing is like drilling and stuff like that, or hacking into cables and doing little technical things. But again, the style is so fluid, and the music's just got this pace, and the beat keeps going that there's like a it almost doubly sells how good they are at their job because it goes like clockwork. It goes like motion. Like they're doing it in beat with the music.
Like you say, it's just something like they're just standing there drilling, but there's a rhythm to it because of the music, and like you say, it just flows.
And
so
the editing
it looks
as well.
Easy. Of course.
The editing as well, the way it bounces around the shots. And then once they start having all the sparks, because obviously it's a big metal safe, they have these really warm torches and drills to get through it. And all these sparks are flying off and stuff. Again, it feels way more exciting than it should, even though they've broken into a place. And that's kind of one of the things that I love about this, is that most heist movies, you have the thing with the case to joint, and they have to figure out how to get in. And there's a lot of it in this when they're talking about, we need to try and crack what that final alarm is, we need to try and crack how we get into this specific type of safe and whatnot. But most heist movies, and this is not a bad thing, this is what makes a lot of heist movies fun, but a lot of it is about the danger of breaking in, and there'll be a lot of suspense because they might get caught or it might not work. Whereas here, it doesn't really do that. It kind of
they're basically just in. You have the plan, and then they're in.
It goes to plan, and I like that for two reasons. One, I like it because, again, it shows you how slick they are, and it makes it feel almost like a really stylistic music video when they're doing it. And then, secondly, it actually aids the plot in a weird way, because the whole point of the movie is actually the people who end up in the problem, not the
plan.
Not the plans, not the skills that they've got. They're good at what they do. It's other people who cause the trouble. And obviously there's a lot of character stuff to get into, what I'll say for spoilers, but...
I really like the pacing, because there's large chunks of it where it's it's really slow paced, it's methodical.
Yes.
And it feels like the planning sections of the job. And then there's points where just, everything goes on. It's like, right, this is going, it's breakneck almost. And it's like, this is the job going off. And, it really emulates that feeling in the pacing. Yeah,
because the job it builds up to happens about an hour, 10 minutes in, and it lasts a good 20 minutes. We have all this stuff with them getting in the building and drilling and all the rest of it. And then after the job's done, the final act, the final 20, 30 minutes is just balls to the walls. It really feels like... Yeah, I mean, you could probably argue it's maybe a bit lopsided in that it is so slow for so long in the first half, right? But all the character stuff it does gives everything that happens in that final chunk so much weight, because you understand why the characters are doing what they're doing.
Right. It is essential, otherwise it doesn't work.
Exactly.
It would function, but it wouldn't be anywhere near as good.
But that's the thing, there's a scene early on when he takes Jessie out for their date, and she's kind of pissed at him. They go to this little diner to have some coffee, and this is basically the what I'm going to call the very stylized exposition dump, because this is the character, he's just basically telling her story about how he was in prison, why he was in prison, about his experience. We learn a little bit about her, and Michael Mann's actually very guilty of this. Almost all of the movies, Manhunter's I think the exception, but definitely Heat and Collateral, and this one, I can actually point to a very Michael Mann thing that he does in his scripts, where he'll have this big scene, in this case it's this one in the diner, where they'll sit and talk for 15-20 minutes, it'll be a really long scene, and it'll get to the core, the character will have to, they'll talk about something that will get to the core of what the movie's about, and then the final 20 minutes of the movie, all of it comes up, all of it really shows up with a vengeance, and all the themes that he sets up in that conversation.
Yeah, and I guess you could argue that it's clunky to just do it all in one go, but it's one hell of a monologue.
It is, the scene, it's just two people sitting in a diner, but it looks so good. And then the acting's great, and Caan's obviously a very good actor. He's been in a bunch of stuff, Godfather and all sorts of things. He's very good. So also just a side note, James Belushi's in this, which was cracking me up because obviously he's in Twin Peaks right now. So when I seen him, I was like, "Oh, is this a secret prequel? Is this set in the same universe?"
You gotta stop theorizing. I know we theorize for Peaks, but switch off.
I know Twin Peaks has melted my brain. I know I have to try and I need to try and figure out what everything's really about. Like, that's not what they're just telling me. There's more to it. There's more.
There's always more.
Yeah.
And when you think you've got more, still not enough.
Mm-hmm. And as much as I was talking about the music, it also uses silence very well.
It does.
It's very suspenseful at times. The final of the movie is very suspenseful, and then there's a great moment where the music kicks in. And from the moment the music kicks in until the credits roll, it's just like it's like you've earned your climax. Like everything just goes off. Right. It feels lazy to compare it to like sex, but it really does feel like the ejaculation of the movie, where you've been building the whole time, and it's just like, no, here it is. Here's the load being blown. And the music knows that that's what's happening, and the music works with it.
That's it. And like you say, there are long stretches of silence from the music. Like there are good, like 20-minute chunks with almost nothing.
Yeah.
But then it'll come in at just the right moment, and that's it.
Yeah. So I love it. That's a great movie. So I think I'm going to spoil the warning because I want to talk about characters and themes and what it's about and all that. So full spoilers from this point on for Thief. So obviously that big conversation I was talking about in the diner.
Yeah.
This is where I think we knew before that he'd been in prison, but we find out. The why is not actually that important. It was just something stupid. But he stole $40, and he was given like 2 years, but he may get out in 6 months. It was like the fighting inside the prison that led to it being such a long sentence, and but basically it actually spells out the kind of what the movie's really about and what the themes are and what his character's kind of going through. Is that he spent all that time in the prison, and he talks about how in the prison the only way to survive in there was to stop caring about things, like stop caring about yourself, stop caring about time, and not have a care in the world and not worry about anything.
Just kind of get on with it, basically.
Yeah, just be yourself and have nothing, like live with nothing, and that's how you survive. And how obviously he's trying to catch up. He wants everything that he was missing out, because he carries around that little collage that he's made of a house and a car and a wife and like all these things, and you can tell, okay, maybe this is like too much. In fact, there's a character in Collateral who's got like a sort of little card that he's got. It's not a collage, but there's Jamie Foxx's character in that has got a little it's like a beach that he wants to go and live on when he's finally got enough money or something. Oh no, he wants to do a limo service. That's what it was. I'm not sure how that related to the beach. Was it a beach? I'm maybe second guessing what was actually on the photo, but there was definitely he had something on in his car. He pulled down the mirror and there was a photo that he looked at.
Content is irrelevant.
Yeah, the point I'm making.
Visual stimuli of a plan is the point.
Yes, that was the point I was getting at. And this, of course, all comes because basically what happens is that he gets his wife. There's a whole, obviously we'll talk about the subplot of him getting a kid because that's like a big part of the movie, but. He has this family. He's got a new house, and then eventually, of course, Leo, who's this guy who's like getting him to do this job. Eventually, he turns on him. And he's like, "No, I want you to do more jobs. You don't get to quit. Like you have to do more," and so on. And when he refuses, that's when things get violent. He kills his partner. R.I.P. Belushi, and pretty good shotgun blast actually. I liked how it kind of like he gets shot in front of a white van, and the blood kind of all splatters onto the van.
I think it's one of those rare occasions where. Like shotguns scatter, right? That's their whole thing. But I feel like in movies, I never really see that.
Yeah.
But here it's like, no, that splatter was wide.
Yeah. I
buy that was a shotgun.
And it also does this thing at the end, not only just in that scene, but in the entire final of the movie, where it does this little freeze frame as the gunshot happens.
Yeah.
As it hits the person.
Very long.
No,
it's just enough to give it impact.
Yeah, it's just enough, and it gives it this little jitter. Like in the middle of it, and you feel the hit a little bit more. It's actually quite smart.
It is.
But so what basically happens to him as a character though is that in prison he avoided making alliances, he avoided being owed to anyone, and that's a big part of his character throughout this whole thing. Like these corrupt cops like think they don't even know for sure what he's up to, but they know he's in some sort of big crime thing. So they try and basically swindle him and like, alright, you give us 10% and we look the other way, and they're basically just trying their luck. But
why not?
But Frank is just like, he's like, no, like I don't belong to anyone, I don't owe anyone anything, like that's not what's happening. He's constantly talking about how he's his own boss, like that's why he doesn't even want to get in with Leo in the first place.
Right, it's kind of like prison's liberated him in a sense, where it's kind of like, yeah, it was this awful experience, but it's kind of made him who he is.
But this is the thing, he gets the family, he realizes him to get the son, he gets a car, the house, he gets the whole thing, he has all these plans, and all of a sudden, he can be defeated because he's now suddenly got he's got things he cares about. He's got all these things that he actually does give a shit about. And so after his partner's killed, and like Leo has him in the processing plant or whatever it is, with the acid that they're disposing the body in, and he's like, I own you, and he says all these awful things about making his wife a prostitute, taking his kid back because he owns him, all these things. Leo gets really vulgar.
He says, I rented you the kid.
Yeah, he gets very vulgar about this. I own the papers in your entire life. And that's when he goes to his wife. He's like, okay, I'm sending you away. Here's 400 grand. This is what's saved up. You take this. You're going. And he kind of implies that he's never even going to see her again. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I think for him it has to be real, because essentially this is what happens at the end of the movie. For him to win, for him to beat the bad guy here, he has to have nothing again. He has to be alone and not care about anything. So
he has to believe that he's never going to see her again.
Exactly, yeah. It's not so much because he survives at the end of the movie, and he has that that great final shot of him walking off into the night. After that, he probably does go, okay, now that I've survived, maybe I will go.
Yeah, he's a free man again, so he could go.
But for him to win, he has to believe that it's over. He has to. Yeah. So he burns his house. He blows it up.
That was one of my few problems in terms of style. I thought the explosion was really slow.
Nah, that's fair.
Like, because it starts at one end, and it kind of, I don't know, it didn't have much impact as an explosion.
I guess that's a complaint for the pyrotechnics guy on set more than anyone else.
Yeah,
maybe?
I guess.
I don't know. But he sets fire to, because he's got a used car dealership. That's his like day job. He sets that on fire. He burns everything. He even burns the cocktail bar that the bad guy owns, and that's when he goes to the house. And it's like, again, this was when it was really stealthy and like suspenseful, because he's like sneaking through the house quietly with the gun, and obviously he hits like the henchman guy, and it's quite loud, so Leo knows he's in there, and he hides. So he's like creeping around, and they're both creeping around quietly. And it's very suspenseful, and it's when he finally shoots Leo that when I was talking about the music kicks in, and it's oozing stale again.
It's literally as he falls and the gunshot's gone off. It's like, and now actions begin.
Yeah, style, and that's when we get this glorious, like just fist pumping kind of this sequence where he comes out of the house and all the other henchmen who are now coming running to help their boss, and it's all this slow motion shooting, and he's taking out guys, he's reloading the gun, and then he gets hit, and then he's like down on the floor and he shoots the guy anyway, and it's
just keeps going, doesn't he?
The whole thing is great. It's like that final 20 minutes is absolutely exceptional.
Oh, it absolutely is.
It's great stuff.
Like you say, he just, once he starts, that's it. There is no stopping him. That music goes with him, and it's like, no, that's it. He's just on the warpath now. And
it's the same track that plays while the credits are rolling. Like, it never stops. Because at the credits, and it just keeps playing. And it's because I like the song so much. I watched to the end of the credits. I was
I did the same.
It's great stuff. And so, like I say, he had to believe that he had nothing again to win, because that's the only way he was going to be fearless. It's the only way he was going to go in there. That's how he was going to get through it. Like I say, and it's so well set up, and you understand his stubbornness, his arrogance when it comes to wanting to be his own person and not relying on people, that all of his decisions make sense, even when he's being a little, he's maybe jumping the gun a little bit in some cases.
Right. It's this idea that when he was in prison, he was trapped in this system. So, like you say, he had to not care and, just cut off from everything. And he got out and he thought he was free, so he can allow himself to have those attachments again. But then he becomes trapped in this other system.
Arguably the same system, I think, almost. Like, even the whole idea of, because he talks about how, that group of prisoners wanted to gangbang him, right? That was something he had to face in prison, and he fought them off, and whatever else. And that scene in the chemical plant or whatever it is, that he's being threatened by Leo, it kind of felt like he's in prison again, and like these are the prisoners around him telling him, like, you're our bitch. Like, that felt like that scene. Right,
exactly. Like, he's still is in that system, so he can't care again.
And I think that's maybe a comment on, because he's still doing illegal things, he's still not really escaped that life. Like, he's still surrounded by those people.
Yeah, could be that. It's also just as simple as the idea that he does owe someone something. Like, he can't get out of that debt, and in the same way that a prison sentence is kind of a debt that he has to pay to society.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like this debt that he's got to pay here, and obviously it kind of the deal gets skewed, and the deal kind of gets along, because he thinks, one job and then he's out, but it's not. And it's the same way in the prison where it's like, he goes in for 2 years, whatever it was, but then he's in there for 10. It's kind of like it just kind of spirals.
Oh, sure, okay, right. That's an interesting correlation. I wouldn't have compared the debt that he had to pay in prison to the debt that, because he doesn't really owe him money. It's more that he's been forced to stay in for.
Yeah.
Because at least in prison, like, admittedly he did it for survival, but he did do more crimes in there that got him the extra time.
Yeah.
But whereas I just kind of feel like he's not free because he's not actually just letting himself be a normal person. He's insisting on still doing things, and we see that he's a relatively good person because like early on, like after that first job, he sits down next to the guy who's like fishing, and he's like, "What you want a Danish?" And he sits with them, and it's like this nice, pleasant conversation. He's a little bit old school. He's a little bit, sometimes he'll say something a little bit un PC and things like that. When he goes to the adoption agency, and they of course, because she can't have kids, which is why they're trying to adopt. And they won't give him anything. They won't even give him the time of day because he's been in prison. And he gets really upset about it. But he starts saying, like, "Oh, give us a black kid, give us this," and he starts using some racial language and stuff. And it is uncomfortable. And it feels kind of like he's.
Again, this is kind of the idea that he's been in prison for 10 years. He's been separate from society. He hasn't seen it move on. He's not moved on with the rest of the world. He's still stuck in that previous time.
Yeah. So it's like there's a hard edge to him, but there is actually a noble, decent person sort of within. Right. And that's why you root for him. You don't hate him. You think there is a nobility in there.
Right.
But it's too good. Like, there's that moment after they pull the job for the first, before he goes to get the money, before Leo kind of turns on him, where it's like there's like a scene of him, and Jesse and Barry, who's Belushi's character, and his wife, and they're all on the beach and they're like swimming, they're laughing and they're playing, and it's like, everything's great, and it's like, that's just too happy. Things are about to get really bad.
It almost feels like in another movie that could have been the end. Yeah, like a happy
maybe.
ending almost.
Because it actually cuts to that beach from the shot of it's when they've been actually in the heist, and he's looking in the safe, and he takes off the goggles, not even the goggles, the big mask, it's the big
welder's mask.
Big welder's mask, and he pulls that off, and it's when he's staring into the safe, and he's like sort of elated. It cuts to the beach, and this ultimate happiness.
That's what I mean. It almost feels like the happy ending. Job success, everything's good.
But that's the thing, that was never the risk, and that's kind of why it works. That the as much as there's some tension in the, well, not tension, but while the heist has suspense and that it's very slick and you're watching it, and it's fascinating to play out, but it doesn't have that tension of it's the big third act thing. But that's okay because it's not the big third act thing. It's the setup for the big third act thing.
Like I say, in other movies, that is your third act thing. That is the end.
The challenge,
that's what you're built to.
Yeah, the challenge in this movie is not can they pull off the job. The challenge in this movie is can he get away from this life.
Right. And I think that's probably the strongest thing about the direction from working through the structure of it is that he can take this, what should be this big event, and in most movies is the third act climax of the movie, and make it not feel like that. Like, because you never feel, even when it's on, it never feels like this is the end of the movie. You never get that feeling. Never plays it like it's going to be.
Oh, sure, yeah, that's fair.
I think that's strong because it's just different to what you normally see during something like that.
Yeah. Oh, I put out the actor who plays Leo, Robert Prosky. I was like, damn, I know him from something. Like, I really know him. Turns out he's the projectionist in Last Action Hero, which I watched a lot growing up. So, that's where I knew him from.
Fair enough.
Nothing to add.
I've not seen that movie. Is it a big role in that movie?
It's relatively big, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, relatively so. But yeah. So, what else would you like to discuss? What scene stuck out to you?
What scene stuck out to me? The adoption one. I think when he goes to try and get the baby. I think that is a fantastic scene for his character, because it's this whole determination to fulfill the dream of the collage. Get what he wants.
Yeah.
And he's willing to compromise. Like how he says, he's like, all right, I get it. I won't take your best. I'll take,
which is a weird sentiment in of itself. The idea, give me one of the shit kids. Like, no, the whole point is they're not. Like, there's not good shit kids and shit kids, but
he's just going, look, I don't care what it is. I just want this life. He's kind of desperate. I
think there's a commentary there, like should he be looked down upon like that and not be given the choice of having a kid? I mean, because it's kind of that weird thing where anyone can, like, if they could physically just have kids, right? If she could give birth, right, and they could just do it. Anyone can do it. under those circumstances. But because they can't and they have to go to the adoption agency, this idea that he's been told no because you have a past.
Right.
Yeah, it's like it's like, as much as he's free, he's not actually allowed to do everything he's supposed to be able to.
And that's the strange thing, about life after prison that I think it isn't explored quite enough, is the idea that prison is supposed to be you paying your debt to society, right? That's supposed to be where you repent and you rejoin society at the end of it. That's supposed to be the punishment and the reconciliation. But then afterwards, he's still being punished. Like, he's served his time. He's done what he was supposed to do, but he still can't get a kid. And
the funny thing is, I don't even think you can, like, this is the thing, like, the woman who's working there doesn't know what he did, right?
Right.
But I think the thing is, like, depending on what the person did, you might still judge them. Like if they murdered and raped someone, like, it doesn't matter if they were in prison for 25 years, you're still going to look at them a bit funny and go, I don't know if I want them to be around.
And it's like, if they're a paedophile, you're not going to let them adopt a kid.
Well, exactly, yeah. That's a very, very obvious example. Yes.
Right. So I'm not saying disregard it entirely, but
it's funny how you're bringing that up, because one of the points that he's a mentor. There's this character that he goes and visits, and who he passes away in the second half of the movie. He's dying, and he helps get him out of prison. There's a really great scene where he goes to this like hearing to get him out early, and the lawyer is going to pay off the judge, and they're doing like face like symbols to show how much he's going to pay him. And the judge's like, I'm not really sure if I want to do this, and he puts up more fingers, and he's like, yeah, okay, you can have 6. But like, one of the things that what's his name, Okla, he goes to see him early on in the movie, and one of the points that he brings up about prison is that nowadays, and when I say nowadays, I mean like in this movie, like in 81, like they started putting in a lot of people into the general population of the prison that they wouldn't have before. People like paedophiles and rapists, and the ones who arguably should be going to psychiatric wards and things like that.
Right, the ones that's more than just, because I mean that's what you got to remember. Frank was in there for essentially petty theft.
Yeah, $40. I mean,
right. It's nothing. This isn't something that should affect the rest of his life to that extent of not being able to have a child.
Yeah. So I mean, and it's maybe it's an interesting little comment there. Like, there are certain types of people who you don't want to have around, but like by bunching them all together, like this is someone who, like, stole a little bit of money, or steals a car. Like, should they be lumped up in the same category as someone who is murdering people?
When you look at them just on paper like this, you're putting them as bad as that person, and they're getting kind of treated the same to an extent.
Now, to be fair, I'm pretty sure nowadays you do actually get to look at the criminal record and see what the crime was. But at least here, it didn't seem like that was the case in this movie. Like, she didn't.
Right, because she was just confused.
Yeah. Because at first she was like, "Oh, were you like a supervisor at the prison? Is that what you did?" And I was like, "No, I was a convict. I was there. I was arrested." But like, it's an interesting little commentary that, like, even once he gets out, he's not really that free compared to what he was.
And like I said, it's not till the end of the movie where where he walks away, where he actually feels free for the first time.
And it's kind of like a two-sided thing, where part of it's his fault because he's still in this criminal underworld, but at the same time he feels he needs to do that to catch up. But at the same time, like, it's the whole idea. He's been screwed by the system, isn't it? Yeah.
Like, yeah, he was in prison, but he did what he had to survive, and that made it worse. And he was in there longer, and then because he was in there longer, he had to do this when he got out. Yeah, and then so part of it's his own fault, and part of it's the system's fault. Like, it doesn't, because it wouldn't matter if he wasn't doing what he was doing in this movie. If he still went to adopt a kid, the conversation would have went the same way. Even if he'd only been there for that original, even if it had got the 6-month service. Yeah, it'd just be a blemish, a permanent. Right, they'd still see prison and go, no. It would, because they don't ask what he did. They're not interested. They're like, right, prison, no, that's it. Yeah, and to be fair, I'm not critiquing adoption agencies for being picky, because sure, there's certainly, you have to check what people are asking for kids, because they could be murderers or whatever. But this was like I feel like. I mean, I don't know what the actual system does now, but like I feel like there should be like a checkup, like have someone go and interview them and see how they're living. He even says that. He's like, you don't even know me. Come on, talk to me. Get to know me. Yeah. And that's kind of it, isn't it? It's like, but maybe that should be it. But the weird thing is, he actually hurts his case because he gets angry and he like screams at her. It's like, well, you get no chance now. You just blew up in her face. You just made it worse. Yeah. Yeah. You lost your temper within about 30 seconds. You're done. Like, it's not happening. Yeah. So I think there's some, the system kind of screws you over, kind of idea. And do you know what I like? I like that it has that commentary there,
without ever actually being inside a prison. But, excluding the visitation scene. But other than that, it's like, you never see him behind bars. Like, you never see that at all.
Of course, but that's it. The whole movie is just the effects of how prisoners changed him. Like, because the whole thing is he comes out with this collage, this goal that he wants to have because of prison, and like literally his entire driving motivation is forged by his experience in prison.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, the only way he can win at the end is because he has to do what he learned to do in prison. I mean, admittedly, the situation he's in is because he was already doing criminal activity, but he understood that he had to get out of it the same way that he could get out of it in prison. And you hope at the end of the movie, when he does walk off into the night, that he's learned that, go and find the wife. She's got that $400,000. That's enough to get started.
Yeah, go straight and
I mean, because he was selling used cars.
A system of a different kind.
Yeah, I mean, he was selling used cars before, so he could just do that again. Like he knows what he's doing. Admittedly, now on his record, his previous place of business burned down mysteriously one night. But
yeah, that's probably not great looking.
But he's a resourceful guy. I'm sure he can.
Yeah,
come up with something. But no, so I think there's stuff going on behind the surface. But I think even if there wasn't, it's so slick. Like, every scene is basically a joy to watch.
That's it. Especially after you get to... So you have even if you ignore all the character stuff, you have that opening, sequence with the heist. And then once you get to the stuff at the end, like, that second, last 45, 50 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just visually, it's just like, nope, this is just amazing.
Yeah.
Where the rest of it almost doesn't matter to a point.
Yeah, you're just entranced. But the fact that it actually does have some good writing, it has a good story, it has good lead character who has very defined goals, very defined motivations. He's flawed. He's not perfect. Like we say, he flies off the handle. He is too proud at times. But he still at the same time gets tempted. And I guess that's the other criticism. He gets into this whole situation because he doesn't even accept the offer when he's asked originally. He then phones back and says, right, let's do it, because he wants the quick way out. It's after he has that big conversation where because that whole scene with Jesse is that he's trying to convince her, look, we're both like middle aged now, right? We've both lost time because of your previous marriage, because me being in prison. Let's just fast track this. Let's just do this.
It's the idea that taking shortcuts doesn't work out.
Yeah. So at the same time, and maybe the marriage seems to be working mostly, but certainly him saying, right, I'm going to do this one big job to get out quicker, is kind of his downfall, and that's kind of it. And that's kind of how you end up in prison in the first place, because you don't want to do things the hard way. You want to do something just a little bit easier. That's it.
Like obviously the scale is very different, but you assume that he took $40 because it was a shortcut to something.
It's a cycle. It's like as much as the system kind of screwed him, he got into the system and then he became more of what he was before because of the system. It's a cycle of things. It feeds on itself.
Right.
Which is still a critique of the system overall.
It is. It's like, okay, well, maybe the system, if it's forcing people to, get worse, essentially. Because, he went in for stealing $40 and he's come out.
And he's a diamond thief.
It. Yeah.
He went in for $40, now he's stealing 400,000 worth, or
right,
in some cases 4 million worth.
So, maybe that is a critique of the system, going, hey, look how much worse this has made him. Maybe we should look at this.
Another subtle little thing I liked, actually, in the first job at the start, again, there's been not a single line of dialogue in the film yet, right? And he's getting to the safe, and he's throwing some of it away. He's like checking drawers in the safe, and he's just throwing these diamonds on the floor. And it's showing you that he knows what he's looking for. Like, he knows that's not that valuable.
That's the thing. These look, just at face value, you're looking at these going, that looks like a lot of money's worth that you're throwing away there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, to me, I'm like, that looks... Yeah, just grab a handful of that.
Stick a handful in your pockets. But no, he's focused. He knows what he's there for, like you say.
So, no, it's interesting. I think it's also interesting that we never see in the film the victim consequence. Like, we never see like the person who works at the bank the next morning finding that it's been robbed and then be like, oh no, we've been burgled.
Yeah. Not important to this story.
It's not, yeah. And that's not to say it's not victimless, because it is, but certainly, again, it's not the point of the story being told. Yeah. So no. And I think that's maybe, because again, I think we're in his head, and he's not necessarily concerned with that.
He's not thinking about that. He's thinking of how can he get out of things, which again goes back to him being kind of flawed. He's selfish to an extent, where he's concerned about himself, not who's he hurting in the process of this.
Yeah. and it blows up in his face. Like, so,
Yeah.
you know. But that's Steve. So I guess we'll get to ratings. So, what would you rate Thief? What would it steal from your heart?
Very good. I think coming in, I was thinking maybe an 8, but I think as often happens, we talk about it and you enjoy things a bit more. You think of things you hadn't, and
you analyze it. You see how. Yeah.
I think I'll settle on 8.5.
So I'm going for a straight and solid 9 from me. So I don't know who thieved your 0.5 there compared to my score, but a 9.
Stole.
Well, I already said stole. I didn't want to use the same word again.
No, I know, but it didn't really work, did it?
Look, sometimes you shoot and you miss, okay? That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. We make mistakes.
Try harder next time.
We make mistakes. That's okay. Anyway, that has been Thief. Really good movie. If you haven't seen it and you've listened to all of us this anyway, do watch it. It's well worth checking out. You can, of course, let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you're on Patreon, you remember the vote for once a month you get to vote on a movie. The vote for next month's movie is up just now, so do check that out as well. But of course, if you're not on Patreon, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and you can become a patron. Aye.
Patron. Yeah.
Patron. Yes. Because I said Patreon like 4 times really quickly, and then I tried to say patron, and it wasn't happening.
Work.
Yeah.
I mean, you warned that it was late at night.
I did. I warned it was going to be more of a relaxed and potentially shambles of a show than usual. So
I don't think it ended up too badly.
It didn't.
We've done worse.
We have done worse. I agree with that. But that's us. So once again, thank you very much for watching. Keep watching movies, and we'll see you next time.